Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by Tucker Hazel, and we're here today for the big return of BLB because I've been off for a little bit. I'm back. I moved into college, new dorm, new space, new me. I gotta decorate it a little bit better. It's kind of
Yeah,
fucking
a
empty
lot
right
better.
now.
Yeah.
So if you want to tell me what I should put in my background, join our Discord link as usual, top of the description. While you're down there, like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. You know what to do. Now, Tucker, we are here today because a predictable rumor has trotted it back out onto Twitter.
Well, it's not only trotted back out, but it has returned from the fucking grave.
Yes,
After almost exactly 1 year.
yes. The rumor, of course, in question, as you saw by the title and the thumbnail, is that Game Boy and Game Boy Color games are coming to Nintendo Switch Online imminently. What
Mm-hmm.
does that mean, in my opinion, if it's true? And I think it might be. We'll get into it. September Direct, drop that shit
Yeah.
like it's SNES Online, like it's 2019. Now, Tucker, honestly, I don't really care to discuss the validity of this rumor.
Yeah.
Frankly, I don't even know the source of it. The reason I want to have this discussion with you today is because I want to ask you. I
Yes.
want to do. Imagine we're in Breath of the Wild's Hyrule. I want to do the gut check challenge
Okay.
with
This
you.
is sort of the Breath of the Wild of backlog banter videos.
No, I agree. I agree completely. How would you feel about getting, considering NSO its current state? How would you feel about getting Game Boy and Game Boy Color games? Let's say this month.
Well, for me, the idea of getting a solid slate of those games is pretty enticing.
Yeah.
I have never been one until the Switch to play games, the old Nintendo games through their virtual console services. I never used those
Yeah.
until I had a Switch, and I've since gone back and gotten a few things on Wii U Virtual Console. But
Sure.
having access to those on the Switch, it makes all of them infinitely more interesting to me. I've played a bunch
Yes.
of NES games. I've played a bunch of SNES games through the service. I honestly think it's a great deal. It's been very worth it for me, especially
Yeah.
with the family plan where you can get it for fucking piss and change per year. But I'm excited for the prospect and the prospect of them just finally doing something a little more
Yeah.
special, which I think is why this is mostly exciting. Because at face value, with what they could do, this is the bare minimum. But
Yeah.
the fact that something is finally happening after maybe the last interesting thing being Donkey Kong Country 3 and Mario Super Picross like last November. Yikes.
Yeah. So I largely feel a similar way to you. My problem, Tucker, is that I've been playing even right here behind this shitty setup I have, which
Mhm.
it will be corrected imminently. I have my Xbox open. I've been playing a game called Art of Rally.
Okay.
It's completely tangential, but the point is I'm playing it through Xbox Game Pass.
Mhm.
And now the price scaling between a Game Pass and a NSO is very different. So you
Yeah.
can't really compare those one to one. But the point is that other subscription services are offering a lot more.
Mhm.
And so I can't help but feel underwhelmed when Nintendo says, hypothetically says in the coming weeks, here's Game Boy Color.
Yes.
Because the other thing is, Tucker, I've been eyeing out of one eye, I might buy it in the morning, the HD collection of the Metal Gear Solid games
Okay.
on Xbox,
Sure.
which also made me realize shit, they've got this rich catalog of games available,
Mhm.
and Xbox has very few classic games to offer.
Yes.
Let's be honest, right?
Yes. Just in
But
general.
right, but they're giving so much.
Mhm.
And so when I look at what Nintendo has, having, I mean, in my biased opinion, but I think almost a factual opinion, the richest back catalog
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
of any publisher, and an underwhelming subscription service, I don't know, because as you're
Yeah.
saying, I think having these games on NSO is great. I think exposing people to Donkey Kong 94
Yep.
and, Kirby's Pinball Land and all of the classics, right?
Yeah.
It,
Of
it
course.
is important. And I think you're into issues of, well, are they going to be allowed to put Tetris on here? Probably not. Are they going to put
Mhm.
Pokemon on here? I
Probably
think
not.
probably not. But there is a rich library to mine there, but I just can't help but feel that it's not enough. Now, if we were
Mhm.
saying Game Boy Color, GBA,
Yeah.
I would have felt like, okay, now we're making this a service worth paying for, because I agree with you that it is a service worth paying for,
Mhm.
but it's a service worth paying for because it's so cheap. I think,
Yeah. Of course.
and I'm not sure I'm content with that. And I think Nintendo has an opportunity to really bulk it out a little bit. And I just don't think that this, especially after 2 years, especially after getting like fucking Claymates and then nothing for 3 months,
Yeah, I mean,
we could do more.
we're on a very long downswing for games coming to their service.
Yeah.
Every time something drops, it's just the joke of the hour, essentially. Even the joke that great, the latest batch of NSO games are lame goes away very quickly because it's just so we're on such a cycle of it.
It's getting really fucked up too, because as I tweeted out for the last batch and it got me some good traction, I'm a hit maker on Twitter, not to toot my own horn, is I tweeted these NSL games are so bad Nintendo of America didn't even tweet them out, and they never did.
Oh, really? Okay.
And that's how you know that there's a problem, right?
It was just through an update YouTube video or something like that.
Yeah, they put it on
Yeah.
YouTube, and I think some of the other regional accounts tweeted it out. But the point is, when Nintendo of America doesn't give a fuck about what you're doing, there's a problem,
sign.
right?
Yeah. And so I'm actually looking at what I was referring to earlier, the fact that this rumor has returned from the grave at almost 1 year. November 30th, 2020, we made a video discussing a very similar rumor, and it obviously entirely unfounded rumor, entirely designed to capitalize on views of our Game Boy Advance games coming to Switch. So now we have gotten a similar rumor, but a worse one.
Yeah, and Tucker, here's where it gets really fucked up, because let's imagine for a moment these games drop September.
Yeah.
Just say that. Okay. You know what I have behind me, Tucker? I've got Metroid paraphernalia.
Tissues?
Oh. And tissues. Wouldn't you think that if you're going to drop any catalog of games to reinvigorate your service, you get the synergy of Game Boy Advance?
Yeah.
Because Game Boy Advance brings you Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion right before Metroid Dread.
Yes.
That's the kind of synergy that doesn't come around too often, but that's the kind of synergy Nintendo is completely ignoring. And I just think that Game Boy Advance, again, I believe that rumor was complete horseshit, if I remember correctly.
Well, I mean, it's been 9 months and nothing came of it, so yes.
Good point. But that, I think, is far more tantalizing. The Metroid corollary is great, but I just think that the GBA library is so much richer than Game Boy and Game Boy Color.
I don't think that anyone would deny that. I actually played a little game with myself and some. I was playing with myself and some friends, trying to come up with lists of games for each console that Nintendo could hypothetically add as like a base drop of 10 to 15 games for each console. I had a tough time coming up with 10 games for Game Boy Color to what hypothetically what they would drop, because there are so many caveats for so many of those biggest games of the platform. Would they drop Link's Awakening?
Probably not.
Probably not. It's on that service. Okay, you've got the Mario Land games. Those would probably all come out, but they have such a weird track record of not dropping an entire series at once. So maybe they would hold off on 3 or something. You know, they probably can't do Pokemon. They probably can't do Tetris. Would they put Metroid 2? I don't know, because Samus Returns exists. Like, there's so many weird things with this library. And on top of that, those are really the only games people care about from those libraries. So when we get a batch, it's going to be very interesting to see what they go with, because I think it's gonna be obvious that they're scraping the bottom of the barrel from the get-go, which is not a good sign.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about the Game Boy library is that I do think you can put together a compelling group of games, but I think the problem, as you're saying, the games that define that library either cannot or probably will not come to the service. So what you have is a lot of B-tier titles, and some of those B-tier titles are very interesting. For instance, I would love to play Mole Mania. I've just never played it before. Well, that's a Shigeru Miyamoto game.
That's one that would definitely be in a day one slot.
And that's interesting to us, but I think it comes back to the problem of this is how you're bringing NSO back into the spotlight with things like your Mole Manias, your Donkey Kong 94s, these games that I've either played or really want to play. But that's a library comprised of these smaller titles and the big ones that punctuated the lineup. And it's also comprised of a lot of titles that were either directly iterated upon and made better on SNES or trying to sort of parallel the consoles. So things like your Mario Lands pale in comparison to your console Mario games. Even Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, which I think is super inventive, is trying to ape SNES,
Yeah.
right? You look at Kirby's Adventure, or no, sorry, Kirby's Dreamland.
Dreamland, yes.
First Kirby game. It's not that compelling to go back to when you have Adventure and Superstar right there. And so it's
On
interesting
the
from a
same platform.
right. Interesting from a
Yes.
historical perspective. And I'm a fucking loser, so I'll play all of them, right?
Mhm.
But I think that Nintendo needs to look a little bit wider. And if you want to talk about a library that would bring genuine value to the ecosystem, I don't think it's Game Boy or Game Boy Color. I think
yes, I
it's
agree.
either GBA or N64.
Or anything, or any of their home consoles, because
Right.
let's face it, all of those have interesting iterations of all their series
Yeah.
that actually push things forward. Of course, the Game Boy, very influential. A lot of interesting series started there, but as you were saying, they were things that were intended to emulate home console. It was fun because you could finally take semi sort of home console games on the go. But is there draw to those for any particular subsect of the modern audience, unless you're going back for that sort of nostalgia value, or just as what's the word I'm looking for, a novelty?
Yeah. The one thing I was thinking about to that point, to kind of give them a little bit more value, I think you could do some interesting things like, and I unfortunately don't think Nintendo would go to these lengths because they haven't really with the past ones. But if you did things like bring over the Super Game Boy filters,
Yes.
Ideas like that, I think could punch up the library a little bit more. But I don't know if that's in the
No.
cards either.
I don't think so. I mean, when you look at the amount of effort they've put into curating these services, the games are for those platforms for the most part there. What they have structurally is passable, fine, but not very interesting. But when you think of what they could do in terms of how Game Boy and Super Game Boy and SNES, all that work together. Okay, what if there was like a way to apply Super Game Boy to the SNES emulator and then plug the cartridges in? Like, they could have fun with it, but they're probably not going to.
Yeah. I think the fact that this is probably going to be introduced as a free addition to NSO is going to hamper that also. I'm not opposed to the idea of NSO doubling in price and giving you a lot more features, a lot more games, even if it's optional, even if they do a similar thing to how PlayStation and Xbox both juggle two disparate subscription services, your PS Now, your PS Plus, and over here your Games with Gold and your Game Pass, and then even offer like a Game Pass Ultimate type of deal, where you get all of it for one.
Still exists.
Games with Gold still exists and it's separate. But
I'm just curious, do people care? Yes. And I don't hear anyone fucking talking about that.
Well, the recurrent thing is that the Games with Gold offerings are fucking garbage because they just are. Yeah. And this is a conversation for a different time, but they need to just roll that shit together. I mean, I get all of it for one price to just pay for Game Pass Ultimate because it's not that much more money.
Yes, exactly.
But the point is, I think that Nintendo could explore different options like this. So maybe just making $20 for your online and your games like your Pac-Man to 99s, the Tetris 99s, and then saying, okay, damn, you're gonna pay $60 a year, but you're gonna get XYZ libraries. But Tucker, I just don't think it's gonna happen. I think we're obviously gonna have a September Direct. I think the news here would be not having one. I mean, we get one every year. Even last year we got the Mario thing. So I think we'll get a September Direct and we'll get Game Boy Color, and I'll be interested to see what games they choose because, like I said, there are weird games from those libraries that I want to play, right? Yes. And weird regional exclusives.
Let's get Kicks on Switch. Oh, let's fucking go Quark on Switch. Kicks, Quark, and Quarth all on one system. That is a modern accessible system.
Sheesh. But Tucker, I think that's about all I have to say about this.
That's all she wrote.